So good morning, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. It's our first Homeless Task Force meeting of 2015. If I haven't seen you already this year, Happy New Year and welcome. Thank you for coming. We'll start around with introductions and if your agency has any announcements. And then we'll go into subcommittee reports, and then we'll talk about the Greenway sweeps and its effects and ways we can help. Start with Dave today. We'll go counterclockwise.
Good morning. I'm Dave from the Housing Authority of Jackson County, and I don't have any specific announcements.
Amy from Runaway to Homeless Youth Program Community Works. Nothing new to report.
Kim Kaplan from Community Works Addictive Services Department. I think the only thing to report, this is my first meeting, so I don't know exactly what to report it. But we have an advocacy coming up this weekend, and it is actually over the next 2 weekends for people who are interested in volunteering. But we welcome community members to attend the first weekend if they would like to. It's free of charge. So if you want to sign up, just maybe connect with me after the meeting and I can give you some more information about that. The first couple days we talk about dynamics of domestic violence and sexual abuse. So that's what's coming up in our life.
Cliff Juno with La Clinica. Nothing really to announce with the mobile. We're out this week. We had an electrical problem and one of the slides is being fixed, so we're not out this week, but hopefully next week we'll be out again, and that's it.
My name is Amanda Kuntz. I also work on the mobile health center.
I'm Darren Ratcliffe with Hearts with a Mission, the homeless shelter teens. It's my first time here, so I have no idea what to report.
Anything new? How many? Do you have beds open?
There are beds open. There's about 8. I'm in charge of the shelter, but I have no idea what's going on.
Thank you, Derek.
Like that.
Don't put that in a minute. Turn off the camera.
There's beds for, right now we probably have room for 8 as of now.
I'm Jackie Shad with Access. We did, I mentioned this a couple meetings back, we did get the $20,000 kind of grant from the Meyer Memorial Trust, passed through another organization, for emergency overnight warming shelter expenses. I've spent quite a bit of time with the folks in Ashland with the network there, and we're beginning to spend the dollars over there for things like sleeping pads, sleeping bags, refreshments, storage trailer to keep stuff in, food and coffee, other incidental expenses, heat for the churches that open up for overnight shelters. And I'm still looking for other locations, either in Medford or anywhere else in Jackson County. So if anybody knows of any warming shelters that might be sort of functioning below the radar, this is specifically for emergency overnight warming shelter expenses. Have somebody call me or email me. Thanks. Lori Stewart, Salvation Army.
Tom Craig, I'm with VA Source, and we have homeless programs, and we always have beds.
And my name is Rich Morgan. I'm just here as a concerned person. Can I tell one quick story? I was a Medford Centennial chairman. I was researching Medford's history, and I was come across the first instance of homelessness in Medford that we know about. It was about 1890. It was at the railroad depot. the Constable Redfield, which was a fire watcher, police officer, everything. He was called to the depot, which is right in the middle of Main Street. And there's a big ruckus going on there, and these people were demanding to be fed. Well, what's interesting, he said, well, what's the deal? He said, well, Roseburg bought us all a one-way ticket to Medford, and they said that you would feed them. Medford sent them to Ashland, put them on the train, and so there's our homeless problem right there. It started pretty much with the railroad, and it's growing leaps and bounds north and north. But anyway, I was on the advisory board of the Salvation Army, advisory board of the domiciliary for homeless, and in different church groups. And I just like to get involved. I kind of tried to retire, but I just, yesterday I saw a homeless guy buy another homeless guy a lunch, and he was kicked out of a restaurant, and I bought him a lunch, and he was kicked out of the restaurant. And so, no, there's a lot that needs to be done. I'm here maybe to do whatever I can do, learn some more. Thank you.
Ben Thompson for the Sheriff's Office. First time I've been to this meeting, in fact, I was about 20 minutes ago. And apparently we're doing some work in a Greenway.
Curtis Whipple from Medford PD.
Brian Days, Medford Police Department.
I'm Connie Saldana with Senior Disability Services, the Rogue Valley Council of Governments. I don't have any announcements on my own, but there's going to be a presentation about mental health assessment in Latino and other communities at SOU. So I just thought we'd pass that open to the public.
Jackie Cotton, and I'm with Alcohol Plan. I'm an intensive case manager, and I'm here to listen and learn and try to see where we might help fill some gaps.
I'm Donna Marks. I'm from Southern Oregon Goodwill, and I'm here in place of my boss, Don Ritchie. He's on the list, but we do have a program right now for intensive help with employment training, and for people, all you have to do is be on SNAP food benefits, so if anybody is interested in that. But I'm here first time to listen to learn too.
I'm Jackie Agee with the Salvation Army, and I don't have any announcements.
My name is Araceli. I'm from La Quinta as an outreach and wellness specialist.
My name is John Wichorek. I'm with Options for Homeless Residents of Ashland.
My name is Linda Chase. I'm Program Manager for Easter Seals, Oregon Homeless Veterans Employment Program.
I'm Frederick Berger, social worker and outreach worker for the Homeless Veterans Outreach Program as well. Also with St. Vincent de Paul in Ashland and Talent and National Alliance for Mental Illness.
I'm Angela Durant with the City of Medford, and I'm the administrator of the Community Development Block Grant Program.
I'm Anna D'Amato, and I'm the manager of the Crisis Team at Jackson County Mental Health. The biggest announcement is that we moved, sort of. We half moved and moving the rest this week. It's been odd operating out of two buildings. So if you have anybody who needs to get started for ongoing services for assessments, that's at the new building. We didn't do any last week. It started today. The next time will be Thursday. So it's only Tuesdays and Thursdays, 8 a.m. and 1 p.m. So that's it for now. And I did, of course, went to the old building, the old space, so sorry I'm late.
You're programmed.
I am so programmed.
So I'm Heather Everett. I'm with Road Retreat, Homeless Permanent Supportive Housing Program. We have 42 units of housing for homeless. No new announcements are, other than I guess our thrift shop is in our third month, and always in need of good donations, volunteers, and shoppers. So we're at 1116 North Riverside. Got a brand new big sign up on the building, so hopefully that'll draw some more traffic in. And we'll continue back around for those who missed the first time.
Darren Dale with manage the VA homeless programs. No major announcements today.
I'm Jan Sanderson-Taylor with United Way, and the chair of Project Community Connect, which is coming up on May 29th at the Armory, and we have meetings the fourth Tuesdays of each month in the old location over at the Housing Authority. let's see, there was something, United Way is in the middle of funding process right now, and if you were interested in funding and didn't get an application, contact me. We also have, this year we're doing learning opportunities to help folks know the city of Ashland, the city of Medford, and United Way do joint grant systems for their general fund grants. And so we're putting on a learning opportunity, which will be, the next one is February 11th at the Medford City Hall in the council chambers. And I think that's it.
So, anybody else? Okay, in the back?
Jody Von Grant, I'm from Head Start, and we serve a lot of homeless population, so I'm here to.
Mary Ann Baker, State of Oregon, the OHOP housing program. It's subsidized housing and supportive services for people living with HIV in the Rose Valley area.
So next we'll go into our subcommittee reports. The core group meets the fourth Friday of every month, 10:30 to noon at the DSO office. That's 29 South, that would be West 6th Street, Suite D. It's at the core group.
Yeah, it's 28.
Oh, did I say, okay, 28? And really the only announcements right now for the core group is we're finishing up working on the point in time count. And just trying to find partnerships and solutions for the Greenway. Solutions. I'm all nervous today. I got cameras on. I just can't talk.
You did good.
Oh, thank you. See, I asked for a secretary and nobody stepped up, so I gotta film it so I can remember everything. The highly affordable housing alternatives. The mental health subcommittee has merged with the highly affordable housing alternatives group, and we are meeting the fourth Friday from 1 to 2 at the Santos Center, room 7. Thank you, Angela, for getting that set up for us. It's 1 hour after the mental health subcommittee used to meet, same regular meeting.
I sent an email. I don't see anybody here except Fred, who's on that subcommittee anyway.
Okay.
And Olivia. So I sent out an email with that we're meeting this Friday.
Okay. And what we're kind of doing right now is reviewing the book Tent City Urbanism by Andrew Heben. And they're flying out the door, so I need to get more copies.
You have to tell me how many you want.
Okay. Thank you, Jackie. Point in time, I don't see Donna Lee here today.
Okay. Let me just throw out a couple things. I know Angie had a doctor's appointment, Donna Lee's out of training, Jeff's probably outreaching. So a couple things quickly. We've had a couple trainings, and I think there's a third one this week, if I'm not mistaken, on Thursday. For volunteers, because we need lots and lots of volunteers to really hit the count starting next Monday. We have Access put up some community service block grant dollars to purchase, as they say in Hollywood, swag. Things to incentivize people to respond. So we have a bunch of stuff coming, hygiene kits and socks, and if it gets here on time, hydro flask, coffee mug things, and those have been donated by coming in. I don't know what else. Jeff did the order. I said, here's some thousands of dollars. Get whatever you need. And a credit card.
Thank you. Yeah.
So when I get the bill, I'll know what I got. I think there's a bunch of people who've been packaging dog food, just doing things to take into the streets and into the encampments to encourage people. If we can't count, the community doesn't get the resources, and we don't have an opportunity to build relationships with these folks and get them off the street. So the count is really, really important for the entire county. So that's all I'm saying about it.
The training is Thursday here?
Yes, we have another
what
training
time?
scheduled here.
Is it, do you remember?
Same as before, I think 1 to 2.
1 to 2.
1 to 2. There is some technique because the form is required by HUD, and there's some technique to sort of get the answers, so the trainings have been helpful.
When is that one?
Well, we have to pick a single day, so we picked Monday, the 26th, which is an overnight unsheltered count, plus whoever else we can get in all of our agencies. And then HUD gives you like 6 or 7 days to do follow-up with people. And we picked Monday so we have the whole run of the work week to do follow-up. Because if you wait for a weekend to pass, and then a lot of people do this on Thursday or Friday, but then the next Monday or Tuesday, you're asking people where they slept on Thursday night, they're like, I don't know. So, so our hope is that if we really just press it for 5 consecutive days, we'll find as many people as we can.
Connie?
I was at, excuse me, the Hispanic Interagency Committee and mentioned the count. And one of the guys that works at the Ashland Human Services office said, be sure to send somebody there. I don't know if it's on your list or not.
All right, I'll double check. Thanks.
At the where?
Ashland, the DHS Human Services office.
Connie, they also mentioned the library.
Oh, in the library, that's
Yeah.
right. That was
That's
it.
important, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Okay, so next is Project Community Connect. Jan, do you have an update for us today?
I do have an update, other than the meeting, the upcoming meeting, which I just sent a notice out for everybody as a reminder, and hopefully with the correct instructions for parking. Mostly don't park there if it doesn't say visitor, I believe. But we're sending out we have sponsors who fund that project for us, and we're sending out the request for funding. Connie reports that we have a new bike repair person who is actually, he's working on bikes. So I know we have several on the waiting list from organizations. If that's how we're handling the bike situation, is Connie takes referrals, and as bikes become available, we give them to folks on the waiting list. And these people have all been vetted and screened by whatever agency they're working with, and they really need a bike. So we're really excited to have somebody who's doing those repairs. Connie's also working on some other ways of getting new bikes for folks. Do you have something?
That would be me. She's working on me.
She's working on you? Well, she's working very hard.
I have to call her. Yeah, I got something for her.
No, thank you, that's awesome. Because, bikes can change a person's world if it comes at the right time for them. So, and then, what was the other thing? You'll all be receiving vendor forms to fill out for participation in the event too. And if you don't receive one this week, let me know, or let Heather know, and she'll let me know, and we'll get it out to you right away. So, that's where we are.
Veterans, subcommittee, the chair is Jeff, but he's not here today. Is there anybody on that committee that would like to report?
Yeah, I don't know what, we just kind of finished up what we were doing last month. We finished up going around and saying what each agency did specifically, and continued to work on the mission statement. And I think by this next meeting, we're going to actually have an agenda for a way of moving forward. So it was kind of, since it was just getting started, we just did some kind of background information, and so now we're going to kind of get down to it and see what we can do.
There was a really good thing on Channel 5 too last week, Live on 5, Jeff and John from RCC.
Yeah, that was the Southern Oregon Outreach Coalition. We've been doing a second Tuesday event at the Mission, and we kind of outgrew that, and so now we're holding it at Revco. And so we're kind of framing it because of the kind of default veteran focus, where every second Tuesday is Veterans Day in the Valley and in Jackson County. And this last Tuesday we had an amazing turnout. We had 10 or 12 agencies and/or services available. Denny's donated some pancakes, pumpkin dinner, donated bacon. We had haircuts again. And Access had jackets there. We had some socks and hygiene products. And given that it was the first time at a new location, we had a fantastic turnout. And I think we solid 2 people qualified for housing that had been living on the street. And there was a couple that were needing some further research. And yeah, it was a great event. If anybody's ever interested in participating, it is open to the community as well as veterans. So you know, it's a great place to get access to people in your outreach efforts, and we're drawing a crowd because there's a number of us doing outreach at the same time. So.
And as Jeff kind of called it, it's a mini Project Community Connect, once a month.
Yeah, and we're doing it monthly, like I said, every second Tuesday.
Okay, for our youth networking committee, anybody, Valerie is not here, anybody on that committee like to talk about youth? Okay.
Can I just say that I've seen now 3 female veterans with little kids in tow in the last month, which is kind of unusual, and they're homeless. And so I'm referring to the people that are around this table for these vets to get help. So, kind of a strange set of events.
So today, kind of the purpose for this gathering, we've got some special guests today here from Lieutenant Whipple from Medford Police Department. We also have represented the Jackson County Sheriff's Department. I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
Matt Thompson.
Matt Thompson, and the Central Point Police Department officer.
Yep.
Yeah. And really the purpose and the point, the Greenway sweeps, we want to know what your experiences have been with it, and how we can best help serve the efforts that you're making. I'll send the attendance around one more time. So for each of you, if you've been involved in the Greenway sweeps, the questions is explain to the homeless task force why the sweeps are done and what goals you're trying to accomplish.
I'll jump in the mix to start with. I'm going to kind of just take a couple steps back to say how we end up doing the sweeps. Okay? But what we do is we have a couple of patrol officers, Corporal First and Officer Bernie Maya, that they work the Greenway quite a bit. And we don't have the Greenway sweep set up at any particular time of the year or the month. What they do is as they are up and down the Greenway, if they see a large accumulation of garbage, if they see a large accumulation of individuals camping, at that point in time they say, hey, it's about time to have a sweep. Okay? It's based on the need, it's based on issues that we have on the Greenway. If we have a crime that happens down there, we may be doing the sweep rather quickly. If there's nothing going on down there and they don't see a large accumulation of trash, they don't see a large accumulation of individuals down there camping, it might be a long time before we do it. Okay? So it's based on needs, and it's based on. And I would say that the 2 biggest things we're looking to accomplish with the sweeps are the safety of the citizens, because everybody should have a right to be on the Greenway whenever they want, day or night, and feel safe. That's the way I, as an officer in Medford, feel. Okay, and the other piece is sanitation. If you've ever been to any of these camps, which I know some of you have, they are not the most sanitary things, especially when you come into wintertime, you start having the runoff from the place where they go to the bathroom into the creek. That's a big sanitation issue. And those are the 2 things that we're focusing on when we're doing this.
Can I inject a question? Why can't the city put out garbage cans, and why can't they put bathrooms up and down the creek? I was raised on Bear Creek, and we used to have one in Hawthorne Park, and it's shut down now. And, you know, the ones are shut down, they shut them down in the evening, and so these people don't have any place to go. So they try to find someplace to go to the restroom, there isn't any place.
Okay, I'll say I understand that, but I've been at Medford for 19 years now, and even when Hawthorne Park was open, and, you know, and even when they had, you know, restrooms there, it was the same. We found the same issues going on, okay? So I don't think it's something we can specifically say because, you know, Hawthorne Park is closed right now for the renovation. That's the reason for it. Again, if I could solve all the problems, if we could solve all the problems, we wouldn't be here right now, but that is what we're trying to do. And I understand that, but my biggest thing that I solve as a police officer is the safety of citizens and make sure that they're safe. Because we've had some egregious crimes on Greenway. We've had rapes that have happened down there. We've had robberies that have happened down there. And that's, you know, the kind of thing we're trying to avoid in the future, okay? And as far as the trash cans and, you know, the toilets down there, that's something we could look into with the Parks Department. But you're looking at the Greenway in Medford, 9 miles long. That's gonna be a lot of toilets to put up and down that they have access to and even more trash cans.
It's better than what they have right now.
It is better than what they have now.
Could you walk us through the process?
Okay.
For the, how long, I know that you give notice, and then I've heard you tag the tents that are kind of the concerns. So if you could kind of walk us through what the process is.
What we do is before we come in and do a sweep, at least 24 hours in advance, we'll go and we'll give notice to whoever's camping there. And what we do is we have a sign that basically says prohibited camping, one side English, the other side Spanish. And I'll pass that around. It basically says it's a violation of city ordinance to be there. Okay, we give them, you know, 24 hours to effectively remove their items from there and go somewhere else, okay? That's put there. If individuals are there, we give them the essential services cards. We have, you know, again, I believe you guys are the ones that put this out. They're both English and Spanish, and we'll provide that to them. At the same time that we're doing this, we'll end up calling usually Salvation Army and the Mission, advising them that we're going to be doing this week. So we'll give them advance notice that if you do have, you know, an influx of individuals coming in, this is the reason for it. So we'll go up and down the Greenway. We'll post, if there's a campsite there, we'll actually put the posting on the campsite or right where it's visible from the campsite. If there's a group of campsites there, we'll probably post it on a tree or somewhere where, you know, everybody going into that campsite is aware of it. It has to be within 100 feet of where they're camping out. We have to post it. And we try to be as visible as we possibly can with the signs. After it's posted, 24 hours later, we'll come through, and usually we start, it's between 2 and 3 in the morning. And we found that when we started later in the morning, by the time we got there, everybody's gone from the tents. They're gone to, you know, go collect cans, go look for, you know, their jobs, go do whatever they need to do as far as they do in the morning. So we do start early in the morning. We have had several individuals who have gone out with us, the veterans. We have usually Mike Whitfield, who goes out for the veterans. Also, the VA has been out with us. Mental health has been out with us. Salvation Army has been out with us, and they were going to go last time, but I think there was a change. They'd rather go with the post, and then they actually do during the sweep when we do it. The clinic has been out with the medical van at one point in time, just to see if we could bring the individuals into that location in Hawthorne Park and system. I think we had limited success with that. So we've tried to bring in resources when we're doing the sweeps to help the individuals out on the Greenway. Okay, that is basically what the posting is and how we're doing the sweeps.
But again, where are the people supposed to go?
Again, I've just heard down here that it sounds like there's lots of beds available.
There is.
So we'll,
well, if I can address that real quick, the individual just down here said they had lots of beds, is that correct?
I think that was for teenagers.
For teenagers?
Yeah.
Okay, that was.
We have beds for veterans, we have transitional beds, we have, you know.
at the VA.
Veterans
So
transition.
it's through the VA process, yeah.
All right, and I know that's an issue, but they can't go to the Greenway. It's a safety piece and it's a sanitation piece And I would akin this to someone who's driving, okay? Your son's driving the car, and you know what? He wants to be a NASCAR driver. He wants to drive fast. Where else can he drive fast with the roadway? You can't drive fast on the roadway. It's something there's laws against. You can't do it, and it's for the safety of it. I understand that he wants to do that, but he can't do that on the roadway. You know, individuals want to camp, they want to camp on the Greenway. They can't do that there, okay? I agree that there needs to be another location, there needs to be another solution, but the solution is not to
We'll
let
address that a
them
little bit
camp on the Greenway.
in the presentation. So in your experience, do the sweeps accomplish that goals? And like, if they do, for like how long? I mean, so
I would say they do.
till they're right back.
In 2014, we had seven sweeps on the Greenway. And it started out, when we were doing the sweeps, in February we had one, and we ended up issuing 30 prohibited camping violations. Ended up having an individual with a warrant and a couple of individuals who were sex offender registration violation that we ended up taking to jail. And that's the other piece of it is, in 2014, we ended up having 5 individuals who were sex offenders living down on the Greenway. These are individuals who don't want to register with their addresses as they're required to. They want to be out in a location where who knows is going up and down the Greenway. For us, that is an issue. Well, we can't have sex offenders living down on the Greenway, okay? And from there, we thought we were accomplishing a goal because in April, we ended up dropping down to 18 prohibited camping violations. Didn't have any other issues. And finally, in July, again, the officers who worked the Greenway started seeing more trash piling up, more individuals down there. So we had another sweep, and we ended up arresting 27 people for prohibited camping on that. And I'm just focusing kind of on the camping and the homeless issue, not on the warrants that we arrest, the methamphetamine we get, that type of issues that we get during these sweeps.
I'm sorry, you arrested 27, or do you issue citations?
We issue the citations.
Citation, not arrested.
Yes. I mean, that is the normal thing we do. If there's
I
something
think
else
you said arrested, that's why I just want to clarify.
Yeah, arrested and cite, we use that interchangeably, but usually we issue citations.
Do you track how many of those actually get paid?
Do I do what?
How many of those actually get paid?
That would be through the municipal court.
You don't track that?
I don't track that, but I can definitely get you the numbers on that. So, and again, this is not a moneymaker for the city.
Right.
Okay?
No.
This is not why we're doing that. Okay? We're doing it to influence behavior. Okay? That's the bigger piece of it. And then I thought we were starting to gain some headway on it because in August we had a sweep. We ended up having 20 prohibited camping violations. In September it was down to 10. October it was down to 5. So we were getting headway in the summer months.
So, are you seeing the same people repeatedly over and over and over return to their same spots, or is it new people?
I'll say sometimes it's the same individuals who go to different spots. Sometimes it's new individuals. So, and that just depends on when the sweep is and who decides to be there. Sometimes I think we go out and post it, and individuals who have got citations before go, they're not lying about this, they're actually going to come through, and they may pack up and leave, and other ones who are new to the area may not. So I think that just depends on the individuals. Some people down there say, I don't care, I've gotten 10 prohibited camping violations already, I'll take the 11th one, and it's not changing the behavior. So, and then we had the latest one was in December, and we went back up to 25 citations again. So we were having a good downward slide, but then it bumped back up to 25 again.
So over the summer months, there tends to be less, you think?
Yep. Again, just for 2014, we had definitely, as we did the sweeps, less people camping in the summer months, which to me would be opposite of what you would expect. You expect more people out when it's nice in the summer months who want to camp out there as opposed to, maybe couch surf somewhere else. So I do understand it is a homeless issue. It is something that we all here at the table need to address and to work on. But my piece of it is the safety of it, and we cannot have the individuals camping out there. Okay.
So I know that you've had a lot of partnerships in the past with agencies that have gone out. What can we do as agencies and individuals to help make the sweeps more effective and productive?
Let's solve the homeless issue.
Yeah.
There we go. That would be the first thing we could do is find a location for everybody who's homeless to live. I mean, that's what we need to do to solve it. Apart from that, I don't know. I mean, how long has this task force been here? It's been years, and headway's being made there, but we're just not there yet. It seems sometimes you start to make headway, and then either economy or whatever happens, and you start to backslide. That's what happens. So it's just a.
So for those who haven't been familiar with unsanctioned camping, Paige Magia, she's not here today, she was planning on coming. She did a documentary video in Eugene about the effects that it has on the population that is camping. And so I wanted to.
Heather, can we have a chance to ask a couple more questions?
Oh, okay, there's a lot of
Well,
things
first thing I
that-
want to know is, are the procedural elements of this, are they essentially the same in Central Point or when the sheriff's office does it?
Yeah, we basically do it exactly the same way.
Do you guys do them together ever, or?
Sometimes we haven't task coordinated, so
I was just curious.
everybody gets in and does it together.
Okay, I'm gonna ask the rude question that's on everyone's mind. Is there any chance you could not do this the week before the homeless count in the future? It really jams us up. Just trying to count these people. We go out, we've been out there for weeks with little treats, trying to convince people to be counted, and then
Yeah,
a couple nights ago, someone said they just announced a sweep, and I'm like.
Yeah, I didn't know the conflict of.
So every year, we are mandated by HUD, we have a federal mandate to do it the last week in January, and it's the same week every single year. So we worked real closely with Lieutenant Whipple. Somehow or another, the other agencies have been kind of left out of the loop, I think, a little bit. And we wanted to make sure that we invited you and made you aware of our concerns about timing.
Oh, man, I completely understand. Like I said, I didn't know about ours until yesterday. So.
Yeah, that's partly our fault. It just sort of dawned on us that other people were doing this. We've talked to Ashland, we've talked to Medford, but then when we got the news, I was actually on the phone Monday, which was a holiday, calling every law enforcement. First I could think I got Lily and everybody else. Of course, you all are on holiday, so it didn't work.
So is that something that that could be maybe postponed this year for a week or two, or is it?
It's too late. It
We're already
happened.
doing
It happened.
It started yesterday.
It started yesterday. Yeah, but maybe next year.
Yeah.
Can I say something?
When I first started doing veteran outreach, I went with Lieutenant First to a homeless suite. And that was the most humbling event that I had ever attended. We found 6 veterans who were homeless. Half of those came in and were providing services. What I saw was that your officers treated everyone with the utmost respect. And it was, like I said, I'm tearing up. It was very humbling. It was an eye-opener. And I think if nobody's been on one with the Metro PD, you should go. It's pretty intense.
Yeah, I have been.
Very safe. It's very
Yeah.
safe. I did not feel threatened at all the whole time I was out there. And we went out at 2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah. And I think it's important to acknowledge, we understand you don't make the laws that you're trying to
Right.
enforce. I have one more question. Just quickly. What would be a circumstance that would, if there are homeless families or persons with children, what would be a circumstance that would cause the children to be taken from the parents?
If drugs were involved, if there was some type of court order where the person was not be around the children. I mean, there's several circumstances that may dictate that the children are taken away, but that's going to be between the police department and DHS making that decision.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
But if you found a homeless family, you would automatically call DHS?
No.
Is that what you, yeah.
No.
So Lieutenant Whipple and I have had this conversation several times about the sweeps, and I get what from the police, from law enforcement's point of view, is that when they go and when they bring other resources, nobody wants to talk to us. Well, and my point is, well, they see you with a gun and a uniform, they're not going to talk to us. So if there's any way we can sort of merge this to make it better so it can be more, I think from their point of view, they really are they've got their goals and their mission, and we want to be able to help those people. How can we do that together? Because the minute they see you, I'm sorry, they know you're looking for warrants, they're going to run, they're not going to talk to us. And so we're kind of then left So it doesn't really make sense for us to go with you because they're not talking to us. But yet those people really need some support in how we do that. And I know we have people who do outreach, but I think we should think about that in a bigger context. If that many people are on the Greenway, how can we really get to them?
See, I think the veterans is one of the group we're able to help the most, because oftentimes when you contact veterans, there are immediate places for them to go.
Right.
You have a place where you say, you know, you're sleeping here tonight, next week you can be sleeping right here.
Right.
So, and it
That
works
makes
for
a
them.
difference.
Other
Yeah,
places.
Funding is
That
always
was
the
the
key.
key. The time I did it, nobody's open at 3 in the morning.
Right.
Captain Cooper finally sort of had a key, so he, actually had a few people and opened the building, but there's no place to go with them.
Yeah, and again, we hate doing it at 2 o'clock in the morning, but we have found that is the best time for us to contact people. So, I mean, if you go at noon, they're not at camp. That's not where they're at.
So we should remember that the
Mary Ann?
count, 2 in the morning is
Yeah.
when it should be counted.
Okay.
Mary Ann?
Just an idea, maybe something really base, like we wear something that's identifiable. And we also go out at the beginning when something's posted. So people repeatedly see, I don't know, a green t-shirt that says, you know, community volunteer or, you know, homeless outreach or whatever you want to say on it, but it's something that's visible that if we do go, or if we've got volunteers that go out at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning on the sweep, you're identified as something that's not only collaborating with the police, but also maybe separate from the police, but offering support. So at 3 o'clock in the morning, people are like groggy and getting, you know,
Bright neon
ousted.
green.
So that
Shine
seems
in the
really
dark.
base. Then the second comment I have or question is, I think in order to get maybe a collaboration and maybe ask for funding, whether it be federal or local, finding out how much these sweeps cost, because data and dollars always, you know, drive our efforts. So I think it'd be interesting to find out how much these cost, and then maybe the cost shift, like are people showing up in the emergency rooms at 3 o'clock in the morning? What happens? It'd be interesting to find out. Or going to Central Point or going out in Jessica.
And sort of to add on to that, you know, you've got the accompanying court costs, you've got environmental costs, you've got cleanup costs. I mean, there's all sorts of expenses tied into this one issue that maybe when you weigh that against an alternative, which may be a real viable place for them to go and be, you may balance out. It may be that what we're spending, we won't have to spend nearly as much of if we have an alternative that really works.
Yeah, that was a piece that I did not touch on as far as when we do the sweep. After the sweep's all over with, we contract with Jackson County Community Corrections, and they come out and do a cleanup of those camps that we have gone through. We allow individuals to take everything they think is valuable with them. If we go and do a cleanup and there's something that is valuable there, we'll take it and put it on our property so someone can come and get it at a later date. The majority of the time, we fill up a 20-yard dumpster plus of just trash. I mean, it's trash. It can be sleeping bags that have been soiled and have been out in the rain and the mud that no one else would want even after they're cleaned. So, and that stuff just goes in the dumpster where it goes. So, and that's every sweep we do at least a 20-yard dumpster full.
Are you finding many unaccompanied minors when you do the sweep?
We do not find a lot of unaccompanied minors. That's one thing we do not find during the sweep. Matter of fact, juveniles, if we do find a juvenile, we get with a mission.
You take them to the heart.
On the sweep. That is rare that we find that.
So you're doing the sweep now and you're citing and not arresting the majority of the people. Where are they
Unless they
going?
have a warrant. Right.
Yeah, unless there's another issue, like I said, if we find methamphetamine, if they have a warrant for their arrest, if there's other issues like that, we may end up electing to arrest an individual, especially on a warrant we have.
Where are they going, the ones that you don't?
The ones we don't arrest, we'll give them time to clean up the camp, and we'll give them the citation at that point in time. We'll tell them we're coming back through in another 6 hours, and we're gonna come.
And they're gone and you don't know where they went?
And they're gone and they don't know where they went, yeah. We do give out the essential services card, you know, to give them, all those locations they can go. Whether they use that is up to them at that point in time.
So do you do that at 2 in the morning then, tell them you'll be back in 6 hours?
Yes.
Or
Yep.
is that the open?
What's that?
It's not the open for them to go to about that. So-
Yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted to show this little 5-minute video real quick, just for everybody who may not have a grasp on it.
While you're doing that, there was some skit with Jon Stewart about how, did everybody see that? It
Oh
was
my
really
God.
worthwhile seeing.
I was at a national
Just-
conference where they showed that live.
It was really great. You should Google YouTube, Jon Stewart and Housing First. And I think it's something that we all should watch. It's really good.
It's very difficult out here. It's not something that I wish on anybody, but I really wish that there were more places for people to have avenues to be able to find housing, because it gets very cold at night. And if you don't have enough covers or enough blankets or clothing, you wind up with frostbite. They keep saying, oh yes, we're going to take care of the homeless, do something, because nothing's being done. We're just being shuttled from one place to another, and there's nothing permanent. All we want is land where we can be safe. We don't need their money. We have our own resources, but we need a place where the police can't come and just move us out or take all of our stuff, and then we have to start all over again. And that's happened 3 or 4 times since I've been out here.
Short
I had all my
this is
stuff,
just their
I closed the
perspective.
shelter, and I'm trying to figure out, okay, where do I go now, you know? And this one young man says, Marge, his name's Leo, so we gotta start a revolution. And Corvallis is real passive compared to here, you know? And so I said, well, funny you should say that. I was just thinking of putting my tent in front of the courthouse because I don't know what else to do. And I spent the night in front of the courthouse. Well, the police came and posted it, said I had 24 hours to move. I said, look, I'm a half-crippled old woman that has to wear a leg brace and a cane. How much time do I have? And they were kind of belligerent, like, well, if you're going to take 2 weeks, blah, blah, blah. And I said, dude, I'm not going to do that. Where do you want me to go? And then I put everything in a tent, rode over here with the load, because I knew some place that my stuff wouldn't be taken. And in the 2 hours it took me to come here and drop off some stuff, I went back across the river, and the work crew came through and took everything that I had. I mean, there wasn't a trace that I was even there. And I cried. Because this was like the 4th time between Benton County and this county that all of my personal possessions were taken. It's like we're in combat mode. And I feel like the rest of America, not just Ashland or Oregon in general, has to really see what's going on here. A lot of us are out of situations that were not conducive to health. You know, I didn't get diagnosed with anything because I was born in, the 50s, 60s, and 70s. People didn't say, they just said, okay, shut. Has a hard time sitting still or whatever. But now they would have diagnosed me, and I finally got diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. My father was very violent, and my husband was just mentally. So finally, when I was 45, I walked out and went to a DV shelter. I decided I had to live where I'm celebrated and not tolerated. So when I got to Ashland a couple years ago, I started working with a couple of homeless kids there. And then I went to the Maslow Project, and I talked to them in some of the churches. I was only there for a month, and they were willing to help me because of all the work that I'd done in Corvallis. And I said, well, wait a minute. I got to go back and finish what I started there. And it never took fruit. I've been trying to push this program through, but nobody really listened. And I sat in the meetings with the Benton County Tenure Commission and Homelessness. And for 30 minutes, they're talking about they need a consultant because they're 5 years into their study. And they need a consultant to gauge how far they've come in 5 years. And I'm sitting there thinking, you're voting on $10,000 to hire a consultant to see how far you've gone. Give me the $10,000 and I'll get 5 women off the street tomorrow. There's such a move now for those micro houses, and they make them out of those tough sheds. What a solution. For what? I don't know, $1,500? But the only thing that people need to be aware of is that once somebody, okay, you get me, or anybody here, you put them in this little block, the little house, and you let them know you're safe and this is yours. No one's going to take it from you. They won't have to hoard. They won't have to be scared every day, because we all suffer from PTSD out here, some form.
I used to live in New Orleans, and they made pretty good living. And one weekend, Katrina came. I went to the Superdome, stood in the rain for about an hour and a half, finally got in, and I thought, well, I just wait for the sun to go home, I'll fix the house up. The superintendent of the police came to me, and his little entourage walked up, and he says, attention, you listen to me. Stay here. Don't leave. There's nothing out there but water and bodies from here to Jackson. No, it's like apocalyptic.
I mean, obviously, the majority of the people who are outdoors are not here by choice, and definitely a place for them to go to be safe and warm and well rested is very important.
If this was your child, I don't know if you have children, but if you had maybe a teenage son that you didn't get along with, he ran away, he had a tent somewhere, what would you suggest that he would do?
I don't really know. I just need them to step up and tell us where we can go so that we'll be safe.
So I think it was Jackie that just recently sent me an article from the Oregonian. Yeah. So in that recent Oregonian article about Portland's homelessness, Mike Trimbrook is a chronically homeless man who came to Portland from Las Vegas, and he says, so many people want to help here in Portland. There are so many programs and so many free meals and so many places you can go, he said. The only thing that's rough is actually finding a place to live. Every place you turn, there's a waiting list. 6-month wait list, 9-month wait list. It's no wonder some people just give up. The crisis scene in Portland is mirrored all over the country. In the video we just saw in Eugene and here in Jackson County, every place you go there are services, but there's an extensive waiting list for those services. At the men's Medford Gospel Mission, you can have shelter for 30 days, but then are back on the street for 60. At the Women's Gospel Mission, you can stay for 30 days, and then you're out for 60. If you leave before your 30 days is up, after you've been checked in, you're out for 30 days. Even if you just went in that day and changed your mind, if you've been checked in, you're out for 60, for 30. Many people who are on our community are on a permanent lifetime ban from the mission, even if it was something that they did 20 years ago. So, Salvation Army Hope House in Key Rose, for your figures last night, has a waiting list for women. It's 50, for men 20, and for families 85. People can stay up to 2 years, so the turnover is slow. In our program, Road Retreats, Homeless Permanent Supportive Housing Program, we have no time limit for our participants, so there's a wait list of 100 for a 1-bedroom and 57 for a 2-bedroom. And that can be up to a year or more for that. If you're fortunate enough to have income for move-in expenses and a landlord that will rent to you, the Housing Authority of Jackson County has a 3-year waiting list for Section 8. So what does everybody do while they wait? Illegal camping. It's the only thing they can do. They have no other option. Back in that article again, Joel Tucker, a homeless resident of Portland, has been in his current camp for 3 months now. He stayed here for 7 months, a year or two earlier, before the police made him move. He said, they say camping is illegal, but we're not camping, we're living, he said. Camping is what you do when you're in the woods, eating marshmallows and sitting by the fire, or skiing, or whatever people do. This isn't camping, it's my home. Multnomah County Chairwoman Deborah Crafori says, we can't have a lack of shelter beds, a lack of permanent housing, and then say it's illegal to camp. Of course, it's not ideal. Of course, we need to find another way, but what else can we do right now? So if you're issued a citation in the city of Medford, you're issued a $3,000 fine. If you go to court, it can be reduced to under 50, right? It's like $25.
That's up to the judge, yeah, it is.
Yeah, it can be reduced significantly to like under 50 bucks. But it may as well be $1 million to a population with nothing but the shirt on their back, like you said. It's my 11th, oh well, you know, it's not, that's not working in a fine system. So, what other options are there? In his book, Tent City Urbanism, author Andrew Gibbons, speaking of sanctioned camp, explains that while there is widespread criticism of the substandard conditions, few give credit to the fact that the camp is consistently providing a much-needed service. by offering emergency shelter to a population with no other place to go. The living situation may be far from ideal by conventional standards, but at the very least, camp is a place to call home. A sanctioned camp, according to the book, is one that has been formalized and regulated by a municipality in some way or another. Camps generally adopt some type of rules as their code of conduct that include things about sobriety, nonviolence, cooperation, and participation. Some sanctioned camp examples from across the country are Tent City 3 in Seattle, and also Tent City 4. Camp Coyote in Olympia, Washington, that was closed down when they created a micro-housing community called Coyote Village. And so they transitioned from the tents to the village. Pinellas Hope in St. Petersburg, Florida. Camp Hope in Las Cruces, New Mexico. And Right to Dream 2 in Portland, Oregon. So kind of the question around the table for agencies and law enforcement, as an alternative option, in the absence of anything else, would you be in support of a legal sanctioned self-governed camp if, one, it was approved by the city council, two, it was at a mutually agreed upon location, three, it was overseen and guided by a nonprofit agency, and four, it had adequate sanitation facilities like porta potties and dumpsters. And so open for discussion on your thoughts.
Well, from a police and public safety standpoint, how does the sanctioned tent city, like, how does that feel to you? Does it seem like it would be, I mean, because I think you probably feel a little like, you know, we're all kind of, oh, you bad cops for going out and getting homeless. And, you know, and
like I said before, it's kind of like.
It's the status quo.
It's kind of like enforcing traffic law. No one really likes to do it, but you have to. For the sake of it.
Right, and I totally understand and I sympathize, so I really am curious, like, if we had that alternative, does that seem like a viable alternative to you?
Again, as police, what we do is whatever laws out there on the books is what we abide by. I mean, there may be laws out there that I don't agree with. I don't care what it is, I will abide by it because that's what our job is, that's what we're sworn to do. Okay, so it would be up to the city council to, if it's something that they decided they wanted to do, absolutely, I'm 100% behind it.
Well,
It makes your job easier.
Right, I'm thinking just from like a safety standpoint, do you have any idea on how these other tent cities work?
I've done some research on it, and I'll tell you the biggest thing that worries me is when you have individuals out there that start saying that in a tent city, we make our own rules, and that's what we abide by. And as an officer, I'm thinking, time out. What do you mean make your own rules? You need to live by the same rules that society lives by, whether it's in a tent city type camp or it's on the east side.
I can kind of address that a little
Okay,
bit.
yeah.
By making their own rules,
Yeah.
they're setting their own kind of self-governed code of conduct that they'll remove people from their in camp if they're not abiding by those foundational rules.
Okay.
But all of
That
our
comes
programs.
to the riddle me this for me is how can they remove somebody from now their home? What gives them the right to do that legally?
Yeah, they have to have a governing body.
Right. So there's, in all the ones that I've read about, they have kind of a structured application process. They have a structured, I guess you would kind of call it an agreement, a camp agreement to be there. And the ones that are really successful are partnered with some type of agency to oversee. But I think what they're referring to is most of our programs, myself included, Road Retreat, we have a top-down approach, a programming approach. And their self-governed actually empowers them to help each other. It's a mutual aid type of system.
And I can see that, I think it might be that the way it's presented sometimes.
Right. Yeah.
So if it was a governing body like yourselves that was able to work it and work with them and the agreements in place, absolutely. So I can see that. You know, the city council said this is what we're gonna do, absolutely. So, but I think it needs to be sold properly.
Correct.
So,
But I think not only sold properly, it needs to be based on, you know, like you're saying, the rules, if it's in the city limits, the foundation needs to begin with the city ordinances, regulations, laws. And, you know, I can't imagine that any city operates any differently than that, is that
Right.
true?
It reminds me a bit of a neighborhood association where they sign contracts. I mean, when they come into that, they know and they agree to it. And so unless you have something a little bit formalized like that, where you know what's expected, and it's under the umbrella of law, obviously, this isn't, you know, outside anything else. But that would work, I would think, really well.
Conditions, covenants, and restrictions.
Sure.
CCMRs.
Yeah.
But then you always go back to one of those individuals that oftentimes we'll see on the Greenway that use alcohol, that's what they want to use, and they don't want to change. This would not apply to them. Now, what do you do with them?
For many of the camps, they have rules around sobriety. Like, one of the things that the federal government is trying to push for a lot of programs is housing first. That is, I don't care if you're drinking, I don't care if you're using, I'm gonna take you off the street and put you in an apartment.
Wet housing.
Wet housing,
Yeah.
precisely. The camps actually have gone kind of a step further. The ones that I visited and learned about generally have a no alcohol or drugs on the premises within like 10-block radius or something. So their culture is built on behavior, not on substances. So if somebody comes in stumbling drunk and they're okay, they're not disruptive, they're not causing a problem, they may just say, hey Joe, go sleep it off, go to your area and sleep it off. That's generally the policies that they've made, is it's behavior-based, not UA-based. I know that in most of our programs, you have to be clean and sober to even get in. So what happens to the rest of everybody? They're still out there. This just gives them a safer place to be.
We had someone freeze to death a couple years ago because they didn't make it to a shelter within 100 yards of a shelter, and they froze to death. A couple years ago, I guess.
I think there was a lot of extenuating circumstances.
I was in that situation, and I heard it from all points. And there's 50 million stories, that's true.
Right.
Everybody's got a different story.
So from any agencies, any feedback about if you would be in support of a camp and what your concerns would be?
Well, I think your first two ifs are huge.
Yes.
Because for years and years, the city council, I mean, how many years ago was it, Connie, that we brought the gentleman from Portland down and we met with the city manager, just adamantly opposed to that. Climate could change, culture could change.
I think there's been so many examples now that have come up since then of models that work to point to.
Well, that's what I was going to say, is that do you have a sense, and maybe this would be hard for you to say, I would really like to have a discussion with the city about models that are successfully working across the United States, either tent cities or the Housing First. There was a program on NPR where I sent the link out to everybody. It was a city in Texas, and this sort of speaks to your point, Dave, that all the money they saved by putting together a Housing First model and bringing so many people off the streets, they just redirected money from the hospitals and law enforcement and trash collection, all these things, and just redirected the money and put people on a Housing First model, wet housing. And there's successful programs happening, and it'd be really wonderful to bring those to the city and have a discussion where people could really open up and think outside the box and go, could something like this work?
You know, Ashland, a few years ago, appointed a ad hoc homelessness task force, which some of you attended those meetings, and out of that came a lot of good results. And I don't know if the city council would consider, appointing a core group of people to look into it, to present these types of ideas to the city council and give them a concrete proposal to actually vote on. It's probably maybe the process that might need to take place on a city government level. It's just a thought.
So one person that I've met with recently that's really likes this idea was kind of put on from the Parks Commission to find out about alternative to homeless feeding sites. And that's Rich Hansen from St. Vincent de Paul. And so we've talked about this, and he's definitely in support, and he's given me some names of people to contact, but I don't really.
But the reality is in Medford, we can't even agree on where to feed people.
Right.
But Connie has
One second, Connie?
Well, I was just going to say, do you think that the core group could put together a presentation and ask to be on one city council agenda, and maybe request the outcome be a committee to look at it on an ongoing basis, or look at solutions on an ongoing basis, and this could be one of the alternatives? And maybe Lieutenant Whipple could come and give a comment. Hopefully a positive one.
He's always good for that. He's always good for a comment. But that's only Medford.
Or a police chief.
But that's only Medford. I mean,
Most of our
she'll get you that
people don't
money
live in
later.
Ashland.
Yeah.
And that's our challenge. Ashland will go a long ways with us, but most of the homeless people aren't there. And we have 11 municipalities, the biggest one being Medford, which isn't particularly interested in this concept at all. They would be happy to have something in the rural part of the county, I've been told.
It's not.
I mean, it's a real challenge for us, the way our population is configured and organized governmentally. It's a real challenge for us.
And I
We're
have
not a big
noticed that
city.
they have started going out more towards Central Point in the Expo area, so that, another reason why I wanted to address Central Point.
I've written countless letters to the city. Medford has 2 dog parks, no people parks, no place for homeless people. I've never gotten a comment back from the city. I've talked to the police chief, I've talked to the county commissioners, and one guy said, in fact, I got a book here, it's called Low Income Christianity. It's about the biblical approach to helping the poor, and it is so solid. Anyway, I've never gotten a response back, and I've even approached some of them personally, and no response.
So I think as part of a larger body, I think we, would love to have.
Voice here, but I think that's something we can bring up. Hawthorne Park, I said, what about the dogs when they pee on the ground? Oh, we've got this special stuff on the ground that'll catch that. People can clean up the manure or whatever, and the other stuff is caught in this special stuff. And yet, if a homeless person gets caught peeing in a park, in fact, I have a friend, I know a number of these homeless guys. One of them was in an area where there was a restroom that was locked up, and he couldn't find a place to go, so he went to the bathroom. And the judge, he went before a judge, the judge asked him, was the bathroom open? He said no, and the judge threw it out. So I think we have a right as citizens of Medford. I mean, I've been working with homeless people for 50 years. I'm just fed up and tired of just sitting around and watching nothing happen. I mean, you people are doing, or I can see this is great here, but you gotta be, I don't know, more militant, I don't know what you have to be, but we could demand, I think we should demand a place for homeless people. They've got 2 dog parks. Hawthorne Park was a people park. Now it's 1/3 dog park. Big dogs and little dogs.
Well, I think one of the differences, I'm just going to address your analogy on traffic, if you're there to enforce laws. Some people are homeless by choice, but I run a shelter a couple times a week, and a lot of them are not there by choice. They're economic refugees is what they might be better at called. And we're dealing with bodily functions and human functions of peeing and sleeping. I mean, those are things there's no choice there. So those are, the difference there, just to point out, I think as a community, we need to realize that it's not at that same level as choice and violating laws. These are human functions that I think we have to collectively agree that we have to address this issue together, so.
I agree, but it is time and location.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be, within 50 feet of a waterway.
Right.
That's just wrong.
Yeah, right. I
It's
agree.
wrong.
I think we could all agree on that,
So-
that there's a better, vocation to support a piece of the puzzle, certainly.
Jackie brought up a great point about the numbers of municipalities in county land that's included as well. But it just seems to me like the solution has got to be much bigger than just the city of Medford. What municipality is going to step up and say, we're going to assume the costs of the homeless people in Jackson County, we're going to create this thing and everyone will come here? Most are not going to do that because they don't see that as a fair solution. They're probably going to want something that encompasses all the communities in this county. I'm sort of rejecting Josephine County at this point too. It's a regional problem that we're maybe trying to focus on a single municipality to solve it. I don't think that's going to be a good solution for most.
I think the fact that most of our agencies are located here in Medford makes it kind of Medford-centric. But that's a good point. But you gotta start talking to somebody first.
Yeah, I mean, my problem with that is, well, it's like, okay, yeah, it is a regional problem, it's a state problem, it's a national, I mean, we can blow it up to a problem that is, we can't address it. We have to start somewhere, and I think to start, you have to pick a place. And like I said, we happen to be in Medford, so kind of by default, Medford might be the center of this. And it's like, yeah, eventually we would like it to go out, but I think we get caught in this, yeah, we want to do big things. Well, to do big things, you have to start with small things, and the small thing is Ashland, and then Medford, and then, then maybe we can go out. If we can prove it here, then we can expand it to other places. But I think we get caught up in this, oh, it's a regional problem, it's a state problem, gotta shrink it up and, focus on the problem that's right in front of us right here. And then use it as an example to build bigger.
Christy?
Well, the comment that was made by the city manager at the time, and do you remember who the city manager was back then? We had that big storm. Who was it? Mike. Oh, yeah, not put on him, but, anyway, when we brought this gentleman from Portland, and Portland was way ahead of the curve in their solutions for homelessness, and we had a whole forum with the city manager and the mayor at the time. His comment was, when we were talking about building anything for the homeless, he says, well, if we build it, they will come. And it was fear-based, and the gentleman from Portland said, that kind of statement just shuts the conversation down. So we've got to get out of that mentality of whatever jurisdiction it's going to be, if we build it, they will come. We're not going to just start attracting homeless. I think we have to realize the homeless are here. We have to come up with some solutions, and I think if the core group does start putting together, we get on the agenda, start just a discussion, bring the city in to, problem solve. And this is my question, do you think they might be open to that? I know you can't speak for the city council.
I would love to speak for them, but I really don't. I don't know what they would feel.
We have the police support because it would be part of the problem solving of your.
We'll absolutely be part of any problem solving if we need to.
Yeah.
But again, as far as the council piece of it, that's going to be their decision. And again, whatever they decide by is what we will do.
And then where does Jackson County law enforcement, seeing as how Medford is in Jackson County, is there any concerns that you would have as far as legalities of enforcement?
We're pretty much
much in the same boat as Medford. It's exactly, it's just, they're mirror images of each other, we just do it at different times. So like Kurt said, we'd be happy to be part of a solution. And then, whatever the, our county commissioners say, or whatnot, that's what we'll do. But yeah, we're certainly happy to be working towards a solution.
Well, maybe the core group better take the presentation to all the cities and the county.
Yeah.
But just off the topic, I was sending around, Lieutenant Whipple allowed me to take his copy of this essential services card. It needs to go that way.
No.
That way. Please make any changes that have happened with your agency, or if there's anybody that's not on the list that should be.
Well, that was my question. Do we do an update of that essential services every year?
Yeah, this is actually the meeting when I usually present it, and I just didn't think of it. Thank
Okay.
you for reminding me.
But do you get a new one every year to pass out? No, I'm trying to ask.
Yeah, I give them to Lilia, and Lilia makes sure
Wonderful.
the police department, but I think I should get it to all the police departments.
Yeah, I think this one was 2012 was the last update that we had. So it's really
Oh, well,
updated since then.
there was definitely one last year, but
Okay.
we'll make sure you get them all.
And then for the city of Central Point, have you seen an increase in homeless population there, or about the same?
I wouldn't say an increase. One of the unique things that comes with having the greenway stretching from Central Point to Ashland is that all points together, just depending on, I don't know what the factors are actually that would, I don't know that they consider themselves in Central Point or in Medford or in Ashland if they're on the greenway. So it seems to be pretty status quo from our.
Same about that region.
Wasn't there a shelter that closed in Central Point?
A church. Yes.
So this Friday is our core group meeting, and the police chief from Central Point will be there discussing our concerns about, I noticed in the Central Point newsletter that goes out with the water bill every month, there was an article on page 2 that I sent out to everybody about the closing of the warming shelter. And with the absence of any warming shelter in Medford, it kind of seemed like that could be something that developed as a service. But with the closing, we'll be talking about that Friday as well.
Sorry. So just a sort of unofficial comment, because my husband volunteered at the Ashland Community Resource Center, and several people have been going there from Medford. So they now have, people from Medford are now finding their way there. And not that it's bad or anything, but it is interesting. They've been there for a whole year and haven't really had that sort of spillover. And so, and I don't know about in the shelters, if you've had people from Medford coming to your shelters.
More this year.
More this year. So it is going beyond Medford. People are going out wherever they can to find assistance. But like I said, it's unofficial because it's just one person's perspective.
Well, and along those lines, so Ashland has a blend of faith-based and city support of it's basically a rotational shelter. So maybe we need to get the faith-based community in here and see if there isn't a way to do that as we develop the camping option, because
something for now. This is the kind of thing that keeps me up at night, you know, just, it was on January 1st, actually. It was like 17 degrees the night before, or like 20 degrees that night, and I just laid in my bed crying, like, there's people out there freezing, you know, and we've got to find some kind of a solution. And if that's, you know, just a warming shelter in Medford, or, you know, trying to find solutions for now. So like the urgent, immediate need is warming shelter, whether that's a place to sleep or just a place to come out of the cold. That's the emergency need. And then, you know, the next step would be trying to see if we can sanction a tent city. And precisely your point would be build them a park of their own.
For the men's mission, when it does drop to a certain degree, they will take anybody in there, right?
I
Are they
went,
still doing
that's
it?
kind of what brought that up, is on the first, I got a message on the Homeless Task Force Facebook page from a guy at Walmart. He's new in the area and he needed a ride to the mission. So my husband said, he paused the game, which really struck me as odd. He said, let's go get him. So we went out and we got him and we took him down to the mission, but he had been drinking. He was not allowed in.
I thought with the warming shelters, they sort of changed that policy, just, okay, well, that's concerning to me because that's
I know I talked to them last
really,
year when we had that cold snap.
Yeah.
And they said it didn't matter if they.
Didn't matter.
That was last year.
Okay,
Their
so that-
higher ups decided that it wasn't conducive to their environment.
well, that's interesting because we haven't been, has that been communicated to people? Because that was always what I've put out there. That is the one place when it gets a certain, they will take anybody in. They had to come in later and leave earlier, but they would take anybody in, and so
That
now
was
they've changed
last
it.
year and Bill
It's
stopped
really
it.
unfortunate. And it's really unfortunate they're not at this table, and,
So when we do the sweeps, just knowing that what's on that essential services card, there's still nowhere to go. Unless you're a veteran and there are special programs and special beds set aside, there's nowhere to go. So it's going from one spot to trying to gather as much stuff as you can and take it to another spot. There is no other alternative.
Another thing too, the city is in the process of cleaning the Greenway. The goal is to clean the Greenway all the way to Ashland eventually, so it'll be open. No place for anyone to, get it back in the bushes. So those places are diminishing.
So timing is right to have a conversation around a sanctioned camp.
I'd really like to be a part of this group. I hope I haven't. I've been stewing
Well,
about
welcome
this
you.
I've been retired from this for the last 10 years, and it's been, like you, it gets cold, I don't worry about it. I see somebody in a restaurant that's hungry, I'll go help them. You can't help everybody, but at least you can help the people that you run into. Thank you for your.
So, does anybody else have any final words before we wrap up for the day?
I guess the last piece I'll say is, I'll probably be crucified for this one. It's gonna get worse. If what happens in Colorado happens in Oregon with the legalization of marijuana, we will get an influx of young men who are homeless. So that's what's happening in Colorado, and come July, it's going to happen.
The largest growing population of homeless people by national studies are female veteran combat vets.
Yeah, I'm talking
But
about.
when
he's
he's
talking
talking
about
about
the
the new law for marijuana being recreational.
Yeah.
Of course, you can always do what they do in some places. They buy these homeless people a one-way ticket to Honolulu, and they go camp out on the beach.
No, Honolulu's, the mayor's trying to get,
I
trying
know,
to
but
get
that's
to
going on. I've
the mainland.
got 250 relatives over there, this is what's going on. I'm going.
Dan?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say thank you so much for being here from the city police department, the county police department. It's a central point, thank you. I really do, and I'm sure everyone feels the same way. We really appreciate your willingness to come down here and put yourself in a position of being.
I wanted to know how you do
But
it.
your willingness
How
to
can we
work
help?
with us and to be realistic about what's going on, it adds a dimension to our knowledge that we didn't have, so I really do appreciate it.
Appreciate what